Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of three opinionated guys with mics and too much free time. Strong enough to stop a speeding movie rumor, more powerful than a bad comic book event, able to waste hours of time asking stupid questions to people who have better things to do. It's Dave, Ben, and John. It's Superhero Speak.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And I'm sloshed.
I'm just ready. Already, we're 5 seconds in, and you're already sloshed.
It was a long weekend. They're supposed to be relaxing, but yeah, no.
Well, what did you do this weekend?
Well, first off, you know, all the Irma coverage. It's like you can't get away from it. But I had a lot of stuff to do. I was writing in the book. I'm dealing with a broken computer here. Hopefully I don't drop off of this podcast. And, and just yard work, last minute yard work, because it's the end of the summer.
Yeah, that's always the best. I watched, I watched the first half of, Orville.
Oh, I've got it taped on the DVR. I haven't watched it yet.
How about you, JD?
I worked probably 33 hours from Friday to Sunday.
Oh, that
That's
sounds
no
like fun.
excuse. You have a phone, right? You can get YouTube on that.
I just can't work and do YouTube at the same time.
You get one of those reality goggles, and then you can watch YouTube in a small screen while you're looking through the goggles and seeing what you're actually walking into.
Okay, so when you say work, that could mean one of three things. It could be your day job, it could be wrestling coaching, or it could be working on a comic.
Day job stuff, video production.
Nah, that's no fun.
Yeah, no fun whatsoever. I did get to watch a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling this week, though, so that was pretty good. New
Japan?
Oh, yeah. It is the best. It's Japanese pro wrestling, a little different than American pro wrestling. It's less soap opera-y, more sportsy.
Okay.
And a lot more tentacles.
No, I'm not talking about that porno stuff. Just wrestling.
So was I. There's always tentacles in everything in Japan. I mean, I wasn't talking just hentai. I was, just everything.
Well, maybe in everything you watch.
Hey, there's not a lot of that on Crunchyroll. I'm telling you. I looked.
Oh, John, if it wasn't for you, this would be a boring podcast.
Well, if it wasn't for this bottle of blackberry brandy, I'd be a boring host. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. And speaking of the podcast, we have, there's something that we need to start telling our audience about more often, and that's our website. And that is superheroespeak.com, right, guys? Yes.
Absolutely.
So, if you're listening to this podcast, you discovered us through Twitter or maybe through Stitcher or something, don't forget to check out our website, superheroespeak.com, where you will not only find, obviously, the podcast every week, but you'll find comic book reviews from our own Matt Vroom. Plus, you'll find occasional rants from me and JD, and sometimes John. Maybe we can get him to write one this week.
Sometimes I'll show up and do a book review, or I actually have a copy of Teen Titans, the Judas Contractor, whatever it's called. I'll be watching that.
There you go.
See, on that.
So we got reviews, we've got rants, and of course, at the top of the page you can find the link to all our social media stuff, our Twitter and Facebook, and all that fun stuff. Plus, every week we put on there a weekly wrap up, which I do, and I've been focusing on some of the fun stuff on YouTube that you may have missed out. There was a fun little video that I posted this week from your favorite YouTuber, one of your favorite YouTubers, John, Nostalgia Critic, talking about how credits have become have they gotten bad? That's what it was.
Yeah. He did the evolution of credits, how they became to be what we see today, and the direction in which they're going.
See, so fun stuff like that you can always discover on our website. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, and you don't subscribe to us, please do so. You can either do it on Stitcher Radio or iTunes, or through the best options. And if you do it on iTunes, please give us a review, a 5-star review. The more reviews we get, the better our visibility in iTunes, and it helps the podcast out. So, thank you. But enough of that.
Or you could go to our Patreon, but
I wasn't going to push it too much. Not yet. We'll save that for the next one.
Okay, we won't speak about the Patreon just yet. We won't talk about the Patreon because talking about the Patreon would be very, very pushy because we don't want to be pushing.
But you can find links to our Patreon on our website. But let's get to the news, shall we? We got a bit of sad news here. I wasn't going to initially include it, but then I saw JD, you posted something about it on Facebook. So I figured we should talk about him a little bit. And that, of course, is, I'm going to say the name wrong, so maybe you can help me out.
Of course.
Len Wein?
I believe it's pronounced
okay.
Ween. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
It's Ween?
It's
okay,
Ween.
See? There you go.
Yep.
So he passed away, sadly, at the age of 69. And I know we have this under Marvel News, mainly because he is the co-creator of Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, and helped bring in that era of the X-Men.
Damn.
But also he was the editor for The Watchmen and co-creator of The Swamp Thing.
And the editor of New Teen Titans.
Yes.
Did a lot of great work, man.
Huge influence in the industry, and he surely will be missed. Did you ever get a chance to meet him, JD?
No, I never. That's gonna be one of those regrets now. At conventions, I'm not great about going up to tables and meeting people.
Okay.
Had a couple negative experiences, so I make it a habit not to meet my heroes. So, but Len Wein, this one, I'm a huge Swamp Thing fan. Mm-hmm. So, in the last year, him and Bernie Wrightson going, it's really, really pretty much a bummer as far as those kind of things go. 69 too. It's way too young to be going to die and speechless.
Right. It's so funny because I was at a convention with him a few years ago, and I knew he was going to be there, and I wanted to get the first appearance of Wolverine book to take for him to sign, because that's one of the things I'd like to do is get a big book that they were a part of and have them sign it, so it's part of the memory of meeting them. Like when I met Miller, I had him actually sign issue number 1 of the Wanted, and J.D. Jones signed it as well. But I couldn't get it in time before the convention. I couldn't find one that was in good condition, that was in my price range and whatnot. So I did go up to the table and say hello to him, and he was pleasant. I just told him I was a big fan and left it at that. But I never actually got to have a really in-depth conversation with him. So like you, that's a regret I'm going to always have. So yes, rest in peace, creator.
I think one of the cool things about I think one of the cool things about Len Wein too is he was outspoken as far as creator rights go, and wasn't afraid to mention the fact that he made a lot more money creating Lucius Fox than he did creating Wolverine. Right. As far as how DC's payments to creators go as compared to Marvel's with ancillary property. So that's one of the things I'm always going to admire about him, that he wasn't afraid to speak his mind about things.
Yep. So on the more disappointing news from
There's more disappointing news?
On the Marvel side. So we all have heard that Disney is coming out with their own streaming service, and at first they weren't going to pull the Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies off of Netflix, and now they have officially announced they are. You
ever see the way South Park portrays Mickey Mouse? Like murdering people in the back alleys and like just all out being an utter bastard and
swearing up a storm.
More and more Disney is proving them right.
Yeah, I'll give you that. So of course this has left people now to speculate, even though Netflix partially owns the Defenders and those characters, is this a sign that Disney might pull out of those contracts and move those shows over to their streaming service? So
it won't work. It will hurt them. And by dint it will hurt us. I am saying right now, because there was already a whole bunch of threads on Reddit and everywhere, and on ARS Technica and the Register and PC Magazine and all these other CNET. They were all talking about, and all the readers were talking about the fact that nobody can afford to apply to too many of these streaming services, right? So like Netflix by default, because it's got pretty much the most, some of them will go Hulu, and now you've got CBS trying to bring you over with the Star Trek Discovery, and now the mouse wants you to pay for their stuff too. But what it's going to do is it's going to fragment so much that they're going to have a much smaller viewer base.
Right.
And they'll make less, they'll get less ad revenue. They're at some point going to have to realize that it's either they get together and allow Netflix or some kind of aggregator take a little bit off the top to make much more money on the back end with views.
No, I think we're in a weird place right now as far as all these streaming things go. I remember I went to the Fargo National Tournament in 2014, came home, and my wife had cut cable from us. And I came home to a Roku. And at first I was horrified. But in those 3 years since, like, I don't miss regular cable at all. Like, we have a Roku, we've got Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and New Japan World. And those are my system. Like, that's what I watch. And when CBS pulled their shows from Hulu, I just stopped watching CBS.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't want to go back to paying what we were paying. So now everybody's kind of testing the limits of, well, why can't I make this money? And this reminds me of like being a child of the 80s. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when I was a little kid, the only Disney Channel on cable was a subscription-based channel, like HBO or Showtime.
Oh,
and it
the
was
80s,
like
I remember that.
Yeah, it was like that for a long time.
Yep.
And part of me wonders if they're trying to go back to this model to see what they can get away with, because Disney, like the Marvel stuff's doing good, Disney proper is doing really well, but ESPN and ABC are taking a bath.
Well, that's because if in the cable market, speaking of somebody who works for a largish cable company, and this has been going on for a while. The reason why you see these weird bundles of channels is to defray the costs of literally just the sports channels, aka ESPN. So what you have is like ESPN is going to hurt no matter what, because the more they unbundle this stuff, the more you're going to have to pay just to get the sports channels.
Right. But then only the people.
But
then only right. I was trying to say, because then only the people who want the sports channels should have to pay for the sports channels.
Right. But getting back to our neck of the woods, I mean, okay, right. Disney is the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room. They have enough content that if you are a parent that has a child that is younger than, say, the teenage years, you are probably going to want to pay for their streaming service just so that you can sit your kid down and get a breather once in a while.
Hey, who's got two thumbs and lives in that zone?
Well,
this guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
but here's my thought on that though. Like, how many of those Disney movies does JD already own on DVD?
Well, yeah, but
lots.
It won't, right, but it won't be just the movies. It's going to be the stuff on the Disney Channel. You know?
Right, but I'm saying for the breather part, he just puts Frozen in on a loop, and then he goes and to his writing desk and works on his comic
movies,
book.
They take the movies off the market for a while, and then every once in a while they come back with a super ultra amber colored platinum edition that you can buy, with the snowman, stand.
Well, that's the thing, though, is like, there's no market anymore. Like DVDs and Blu-rays, like that market is pretty much dried up and died. This is my business. Like everything is on a stream service now. Everything is archived online. So I mean, like the only people that really buy Blu-rays are snobs like me that want all the super fancy extra features and stuff like that. So this move makes sense from Disney. I don't like it because now I'm going to have to cut back. We cut the WWE network a couple weeks ago just because I know I'm going to have to pay for this Disney thing down the line. And because, we got an 18-month-old and he's going to want to watch this stuff. And quite frankly, it's easier to stream a movie than it is to pop in the DVD because I'm lazy. I think we're all a little lazy. It's way easier to click on the remote. So, I think Disney's the one company that can get away with this. But the question is how many other companies get emboldened by it.
But they're only going to get away with it for a certain demographic. If you're...
A demographic spends money, though, man.
Well, no, it doesn't. That's the thing. The demographic is like I said, teenage years and younger. The target demo that all these guys are vying for are like 18 to 27, right? They're the ones that have money and can spend it.
But
but that's the thing though, is when you're a parent, you're going to spend money to make your kid happy. You spend stupid things that you can't afford on your kids all the time.
True, but
that's being a parent.
True, but how much money you're going to have if you're paying for the Disney streaming channel, CBS streaming channel, ABC channel, NBC, the Hulu, the Amazon.
Spot on, man. Yeah, you're spot on. That's the thing though, is I don't think Disney's going to lose that battle. Not with people like me who've got kids. Like for the next probably 12 to 13 years. Like, this is going to be, I'm going to have to get this to survive. Like, and then, like I said, I got rid of something that I liked to help for my kid.
Right.
So, and I think that's what Disney's banking on, is the gullibility of parents.
Right. And I also think, too, if
laziness.
If they get the Defenders, shows, then that's this demographic, too,
Yeah, they'll force the geeks, the nerds, the people that like action.
I guess that's the question. Would you guys, like John, would you get the Disney network if those Marvel shows moved over there?
Well, you see, that's the problem. Here's some from some of the discussions on Reddit, is that a lot of people will say, "Oh, the Defenders 2 is coming out. Great." They'll buy into the streaming service for a month and then leave.
Maybe.
And they'll do No, they.
I hate.
Yeah, I mean, the point for the marketing, from the marketing side, is that they're counting on people to sign up for it and then either forget to end it, or to be too lazy to go online and turn off their or close their account, and they make it hard on the websites to close your account. Scam.
But then again, what they do in those cases is they have people that are jumping on and off their network to just watch the Defenders or Daredevil season 3. Then what they sit there, what they do is they turn around and they go, okay, it's $12.95 or $14.95 a month to just buy 1 month, but if you prepay for a whole year, then it's $10.95 a month.
Right, but again, that comes down to, okay, yeah, I could spend. That's the thing though. If you look at it, like I'll pay the $15.99 a month for 1 month instead of paying $150 for a year just to get a discount.
So, like, on this subject, like, it's funny, it keeps coming back to this. We had the WWE network for about 2-3 years. I got tired of it, and it's old. But the problem they're having right now, because they jumped on this back in 2014, and what they're having is they used to have these pay-per-views once a month that were $30 to $50. Once a month, they'd expect their hardcore fans to pay that. Well, then they offered their streaming network, put all these major pay-per-view shows on there, $10 a month, right? And they thought that, and the big fear was, well, is the WWE going to like sit there and just kind of fart out their non-big shows? Like they're going to go off for WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. What are they going to do for the rest of the year? And it's become the exact opposite. People will jump on for the WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble or that stuff early in the year, and then the rest of the year they're checking out because like they can spend why give them $10 a month if I don't care what's on that network? That's where I'm at right now. Is like if I don't care what's on, like, and I love the product, but I don't need to spend my $10 a month there. I would rather pay $14 for 3 months rather than John saying $150 a year.
Now here's the thing. So like I just canceled Hulu for the same reason you stopped watching it, is because CBS pulled all their stuff, and I used to watch Elementary on it. But for Disney, if you got the kids covered and you've got the nerds covered with all of the Marvel stuff, and maybe they added a few, more adult themed shows or whatever, which they probably will if they're going to go whole hog on this. Okay, so they've got enough content that they can pull people in and probably keep them in. Netflix can do the same. Netflix, I'm sure, if they lose the Marvel rights to this stuff, which, oh God, I would hate that. But if they do, then they'll create other shows. You can guarantee that.
They just spent a whole lot of money on Miller World.
But CBS has got one show right now that they're trying to pull people in. And as much as I love Star Trek, I am not going to spend money on CBS All Access in order to see that one show.
Well, that's what we were when they pulled CBS from Hulu. I haven't watched anything CBS in probably 2 years.
Yeah,
like because we pay for Hulu. There's a lot of stuff on Hulu I like to watch. Like it was that's an easy choice because I'm not going to give CBS my money for a show to, like you said, watch one show. Like I think they've kind of they're overstepping it a little bit. Like And I think that Disney might be the one company that can get away with this. They spent $5 billion on Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, they kind of they've got the geek market cornered.
Well, not just geek. For Star Wars is like more than just normal geek people.
That's true.
So guys, there is one simple solution to your CBS
Kill the mouse,
problem.
dump the body out back?
No, you buy an antenna.
Then I'm a slave to when people tell me what I have to watch. I don't want people telling me when I have to watch TV. I tell you when I want to watch TV.
Yeah, you know what the answer is? YouTube Red, which is yet another thing you'd have to pay for.
Well, then you get an antenna and you get a VCR. I'm sorry, a DVR, and then you can tape it and watch it whenever you want.
Indignant Rage is more fun.
Oh, okay, good.
Especially when it's such an easy target. I mean, geez,
I'm glad we're on the same page. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, see what happens. I think John's right. The Disney is the 500-pound gorilla who can get away with this. Though, in an interesting note in the same article, they pointed out that Marvel's stockholders were not happy, and their stock went down a little bit at the announcement. Yeah. So again, we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And then also speaking of Marvel and kids, Marvel's now going after your kids.
I always knew they looked shady.
Yes, so they're now launching, which this is not, JD, you've said this before, it goes around and around and around. This is not a new concept. This is something they've done before. They have it out for a couple of years and then it dies. They're starting a kids line of books aimed at the kids called Marvel Superhero Adventures. And they're highly cartoonish stylized versions of the superheroes, extra big heads. Yes. So what do you guys think about that?
As long as they don't have I don't know, the Hulk steal 80 cakes or 40 cakes. What was it? I forget what stole, as long as they don't do that kind of stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen the DC kids book? When no one was looking, Lex Luthor stole 40 cakes. He took 40 cakes. That's as many as 4 10s. And that's terrible. They have entries for the Joker and Adrian somebody or other. And
well, maybe.
It's Hawkman ate a sandwich. It was very, very, the literary power was just there. The things I pull up, I'm sorry.
Yes. So, I mean, they had books, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I can't remember what they were called. They were I think it was just Marvel Adventures.
Marvel Adventures, yeah.
And it wasn't as stylized, but it's still the stories were very younger reader oriented. They had them out for a few years and then they stopped, and now they're bringing this out again. It's just indoctrination.
Got to get that gateway drug, man.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll be buying these for your son when they come out.
Oh, they're going to be bought. We already have a ton of superhero stuff. I mean, I look back to the early 80s, I discovered Spider-Man through Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So, and looking back at those those TV shows, they're unwatchable to anyone over the age of 8.
Yeah, you have to have nostalgia for those.
You do. They're absolutely awful. But that's what made me love Spider-Man before I could read. That's why I wanted to learn to read quick so I could buy Spider-Man. So, why not? Makes sense to me. And you have to reinvent them every few years.
I have them playing on a loop on my DVD player, constantly. I don't know what I'm well over the age of 8.
They're not exactly nuanced to their plot development, their plot and character development.
Nor in their animation.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, too.
So if you have kids, young kids, obviously, keep an eye out for those. They'll be hitting your stores soon. And
all must serve at the altar of Marvel and that old guy.
Disney, man. We're back to Disney.
Well, no.
Well,
wait, hold on. Or did you mean Stan Lee?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, I was talking about Walt Disney's head, but,
Speaking of Stan Lee, actually, if they were to do a biopic on Stan Lee, who do you think should play him?
Oh, no. Big no. Hard pass. No.
Wait, you read the title of our next article.
Yes, and then I burned my monitor just to get it out of my head.
So for those who are wondering, while John is having a conniption fit, Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, it's a full fit. It's a full fit, not just a canoe.
Leonardo DiCaprio has come out and said he would like to play Stan Lee in a biopic about the man's life. Apparently, we already know John's feelings on this.
Unless he played it as his character on The Revenant, that would be awesome. The real Stan Lee story.
What do you?
Crawling over the bodies of other hero creators. Sorry.
What do you think, JD?
Sorry.
I'm not as averse to DiCaprio. I actually like DiCaprio. I think he's a good actor. I don't know. I'm okay with it, I guess. Like, who plays Jack Kirby? Like, and how are they going to tell this story? Is it just going to be the whitewashed Stan Lee, creator hits good at 40, fifth story? Or are they going to be a little more real? Because I just don't know if I see a movie in that.
Yeah, that is a can of worms. That's like, if you do enough research to do that right, you are going to step on toes on every level. Yeah, I mean, if they do it like The Late Shift, like then it'd be kind of cool. You could have a good story there. But I don't think they're going to do that. Like, I just don't. It seems to me like they would do more of a glory thing, and I'm not interested in that story.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure there's people who don't know the story and are interested in it. Yeah, but again, John's right. You open a can of worms if you start bringing in the Jack Kirby connection, and then, of course, Ditko. I mean, maybe this will get him out of hiding, and he'll at least give an opinion on what happened. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Hey, well, we're not ready for a biopic yet. The man's still here. Knock on wood.
That sounded not like wood.
It was. What you heard was my mic stand vibrating. Yes. So yes. And speaking of the lovely and talented and beautiful Leonardo DiCaprio, I brought this article in, switching over to DC news now because we haven't talked about it, even though it was news a week ago. Apparently he's Warner Brothers' top pick to play the Joker in the standalone Joker movie they're talking about.
Well, they must have looked at his history. So.
I mean, really don't know how I feel about this. And I know this goes back to Jack Nicholson being cast as the Joker and then Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker. You don't know until you see it. But I don't know. I don't see him pulling off maniacal. But maybe
if we saw the demo reel, we could probably make a more informed decision. But unfortunately, you usually don't get to see that until long after the movie's been made.
Right.
I mean, he might. He like JD says, he's got chops. He could turn out to be fairly awesome. And if he is, great. Because if you saw him in Revenant, I'd see him cutting somebody open and crawling in their body and using them as a meat puppet.
True, but this also goes against their initial announcement when they said Leto wouldn't be playing the Joker because they wanted someone younger because they were doing the Joker's origin story.
Well, Leonardo DiCaprio still looks 20 years younger than he actually is. So,
but do you guys think that maybe this is, Warner Brothers really just wants to recast the Joker and not tell
maybe maybe it's a trial balloon.
If they wanted to tell him without telling, if they wanted to recast without telling him, they did a very bad job of it. Is what I'm talking about. Well, I don't know. Whenever I hear these things, I think that it's public. It's just they take these things into negotiations, and it's just PR people let things slip just to kind of get buzz out of things, just to kind of tell, hey, we don't need you. Because Leto was a little, as justifiably so, critical of the Suicide Squad movie. So,
or it could,
I don't know. I always kind of think these things are public negotiations.
Yeah, right. or it could be the studio themselves release this as a trial balloon to see what kind of reaction they get.
Right? Yeah,
that's not unheard of.
Yeah, I do think they do that a lot. Like, let's float this out there and see what people say.
See how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, if they ever listened to that, then Leto never would have been the Joker. But
well, that's true. Then neither would Michael Keaton never would have been Batman. Heath Ledger probably wouldn't have been the Joker. Nobody was crazy about that when it got announced.
They never trial ballooned them. Leto we heard about way before Suicide Squad was being made. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Speaking of casting choices, so they've cast their Hawk and Dove for the DC's Titans show, and it's Ellen Richardson and Minka Kelly.
Minka Kelly? I know her from...
She was in the Charlie's Angels reboot a few years ago.
Yeah, but she was in something else before that.
So, and this is also another show. I didn't realize this. Someone pointed this out to me today. This is going to be on the Warner Brothers streaming service.
Oh, for son of a... God damn it. Come on.
So what do you guys think of those casting choices for a show we'll probably never watch?
Yeah.
I think this is all just... I think all this does is drive up the need to pirate stuff more, to be quite honest with you. It makes me sick to say something like that, because, I've seen some of my stuff that's been pirated, and having not made a whole lot of money from comics, it makes me mad, but at the same time, it's like, my God, man, really? Another network? Focus. Minka Kelly was alright, I guess, on Charlie's Angels, the episode I watched. Alan Richardson was he was Aquaman in Smallville.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
And wasn't very good. I don't know. That was a decade ago, so it's hard. I don't want to make judgments.
He wasn't in there that much. Not like
like 3 episodes, something like that.
And there's just
she was Minka Kelly was also on Friday Night Lights. That's where I remember her from.
Oh, okay.
He had this. I mean, it's. I don't think it was necessarily him. He just has this look about him like he's a dude bro.
Kind of. That was why they made him Aquaman. Yeah, he does look like a dude bro.
So yeah, well, we won't watch it, DC. Sorry, because we're not going to pay for the Warner Brothers streaming service.
It's getting ridiculous. It is kind of a theme now. It's just that's wrong.
Yeah. So, but speaking of things we will pay for, I'm going to nix this next article we have, and I'm going to talk about the article you mentioned earlier, John.
Wait a minute. You're getting rid of the VR launches and mobile. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We finally have it confirmed as of today, as of recording this podcast.
Well, that's why you can't say anybody's name. No.
Patty Jenkins has been confirmed to be the director of Wonder Woman 2. Yay!
It's about time.
I'm not one, and John can attest to this fully. I am not one to scream sexism. I'm like, yeah, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't see sexism everywhere, but this seemed a little odd because I just feel like other movies, sequels get greenlit the day that, after the opening weekend, and the director's confirmed 2 weeks later. The movie's now out on Blu-ray, and they just confirmed that she's going to direct the second one. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with working out the details of the contract and negotiating money, what they thought was fair to pay her, or what she wanted to make. But, it just seemed like it took way too long. They should have just given her what she wanted.
And here's what I wanted to talk about before when we told you we should start recording, is that I'm hoping that part of this negotiation involved her getting more creative control over what she did in the movie, instead of, like you said, they were going to get rid of the whole no man's land.
Yes.
Shot, and that made the movie, right?
It's your centerpiece scene.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just a centerpiece. It was what gave you her real motivation, that she was there to help people, not to avenge anybody, not because your parents died, nothing like that. She saw people in need, and she was going to be there and help them. And it was probably one of the most awesome action shots I've seen in a very long time. Right. So I'm hoping she gains more creative control with this new contract, so that they can't mess with it as much, and they can let her do more awesome things. Sorry, did I blow everybody out with that? Cause,
no. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, critically, I think, and maybe not necessarily financially, but it did a lot better than anyone thought it was going to do. This is probably Warner Brothers DCEO's biggest success, and to not see that, is, I think, a mistake on their part. So hopefully they see it, and we'll get an even better sequel.
Yeah. Just one thing. Don't have a romantic entanglement. You don't have to have a male lead. You don't have to work on chemistry or anything. We saw what happened with her. Well, Steve Trevor. He's gone. Just show her as a hero. Give us a hero's journey. She doesn't have to have a romantic, like they do that with like every male lead has to have a female, a female co-star, a female love interest. Even if like when they're doing sequels, they'll have a different love interest every time, even though it makes no sense because the whole point of it is that they get together at the end. I just hope that they don't do that with this. I want to see another No Man's Land scene is what I want to see.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, pardon me, I think like the whole reason that they have female love interests in all the superhero movies isn't for you. It's to get, a wider demographic,
You're right, and I think those are very old stereotypes that executives put onto viewers. Like the assumption, these things. Well, the women they want the love story. Like they're not there for the action. Which I think Wonder Woman. I love this movie because it so challenges these assumed gender roles and gender stereotypes, right? Because there are tons of little girls now that are dressing up like Wonder Woman, ready to go out there and kick ass. And like as John says, don't need the love story. Like it's very patronizing to have the whole, the love story's there to get the girls into theater. It's so antiquated and silly. And I agree with John. That being said, I think they'll totally shoehorn a love story in because I don't give Hollywood executives that much credit for their thought. So, I mean, you're right. I think the reason those things are put in is because they assume that you need it when you totally don't need it. Superman, that's part of the mythos. You need that whole thing. Right. Like the Lois and Clark story, you need it. Wonder Woman, I mean, every time I see Steve Trevor in a comic book, I'm like, this guy is just useless. And Chris Pine did a great job playing him and made me like Steve Trevor way more there than ever. And he had a fantastic end. So, but then again, it's been 100 years, so you can argue whatever, but I don't think it needs it. If something comes up organically and Patty Jenkins has a story to tell, I'm interested.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you, if Patty Jenkins is in charge of it, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
If Zack Snyder somehow worms his way in and writes a few sentences in the script, I think that's it. Done.
I think you can. I think you can argue. Jeez, my mind's going blank. You can make the elves argument in Lord of the Rings. Aragorn and
I didn't know we were going to go full fantasy geek today.
What's her name?
I would have put on.
Who's the female elf?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The whole point. What? The whole point of the story being that why fall in love with a mortal because the mortal's going to die.
It's Arwen.
Arwen, yes, and you're never going to see him again, and you can take that and now transmute it into Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor's story. She loved someone and he died because he was immortal. So now it's like she's, sworn off romantic love because she doesn't want to get hurt like that again.
You could do that. Unfortunately, that's a setup to a love story. And if that's the story they want to tell,
but it doesn't have to be a setup to a love story. She could be happy being that way.
But if you specifically bring it up, it becomes the setup to a love story. If you completely ignore it, then it's not. But because that's what it is. That's what it is in Lord of the Rings too.
Okay. Well, I just have to appease the Tolkien fans. They're yelling at me right now. I can hear it, even though we're recording this and they're listening to it in the future. I can hear this. It was Toriel and Keeley. That was the elf dwarf love story that didn't exist
in the movie.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, appease those Tolkien fans. It's been a while since they've had any movies.
I know, but they're serious about it. They'll find me.
So we'll see. Yeah, no, you're right. Let's just ignore it, at least in the sequel, and we'll figure it out in the next one. And there's so many great Wonder Woman stories they can tell without, worrying about a love interest.
Well, the time they spend on, quirky getting to know each other scenes, they can spend on kicking ass and taking names scenes. I'd rather have the latter than the former.
Yes, but it's also been proven that if you have a movie that's nothing but fighting and taking ass, kicking ass and taking name scenes, they become tiresome.
Yeah.
And
yes, and if it's the other way around, then it's a much different movie. Probably not a child appropriate. But
speaking of romantic entanglements, what happens a lot of times when a man and a woman get together and love each other very much? They get married, and then usually what happens after that?
Either an evil witch or a dragon. Going by Disney standards.
JD, you can help me out here. Come on.
We got married, and a short 10 years later, we had a baby.
There you go. A short 10 years later, he had a baby. I was only married for 2 years before we had my son. And, now DC has decided,
that's right.
We have Superman and Lois now married and with a kid, and all these other heroes maybe have kids in the future. So their current story off of Rebirth, in the Justice League, the children of the Justice League have come back from the future.
And they've screwed up a whole bunch of love triangles that a lot of people have a lot of vested interests in. Sorry, people. A lot of people are getting shipped.
So basically, spoiler alerts for those who are currently reading the Justice League series. You might want to skip past this part, but essentially, I'm not going to go into detail too much. But the children return. They tell of a dark presence that has taken over the Earth. In fact, this has killed Superman and a lot of the other heroes, and they've come back in time to stop it. The problem is, it's one of the Justice League they believe is the cause of it, and they've come back to kill a member of the Justice League.
It's Jordan. It's Hal Jordan. He did it before. It's Hal Jordan. He should have stayed dead. Why did Kyle Rayner pull his ass out of the afterlife for Green Lanterns, for crying out loud?
So, what do you guys think of this plot?
It's interesting. It's like the first major plot that I've heard of that isn't really part of the Rebirth concept. The whole, bringing things back to a certain. It is like the first plot that's going forward from Rebirth, basically. Major one anyway. And I think it's interesting. I don't know I'll be able to collect all of the comic books. I'll probably be listening to Comics Explained on YouTube to hear about it. But otherwise, it sounds interesting. They've done this before with Impulse coming back. Unlike, say, was it Teen Titans or the Young Justice, right?
Well, this is a comic book trope that goes back even farther than that. I mean, Bishop coming back to stop the terrible future for the mutants, Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that's
Kitty. That was actually Kitty Pryde, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Kitty Pryde. But sorry, but Bishop does come back at some point as well.
Same exact storyline, different guy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's an old school trope, and it's been done 1,000 times before.
Yeah. Technically, it was kind of done even in Bruce Timm's run with the Justice League Unlimited. I mean, not with kids coming back, but with the future interacting with the past and seeing what the outcome of what was of certain ships, like Hawkwoman and Green Lantern. Was it John Green Lantern? I forget.
John Stewart.
Oh my God, John Stewart. Yeah. It was Hawkgirl and John Stewart. And they had Darkhawk in the future, but then it was like one of those future timelines that this could have happened, but now we're not so sure, and they broke up.
Right, like, remember Armageddon 2001, where they had to come back and kill? It actually turned out to be Hawk, or supposed to be Hawk, and it turned out to be Captain Atom, and, this is the Terminator, man. It's been done, but, I mean, after Gilgamesh, everything was done. It all comes down to execution. I'm curious because Brian Hitch is a real big picture thinker, and this looks like it's going to be isolated to just his books, or just his books. So, I don't know. Seems cool. I don't know. Give it a shot.
To quote one famous time traveler, it's all timey-wimey.
my only curiosity is DC has a tendency, like, if the story is popular enough and enough people like it, to not necessarily move the whole world forward to get to that point, but have things happen in the regular continuity to lead us down that road eventually. So having these kids now start showing up more in the books.
Well, there is one really big twist to this. If I remember correctly, very soon they're supposed to start the runs that deal with the Watchmen in the DC universe, which means that a certain blue, non-underweared person
giant testicle man,
she'll be tooling around the universe, changing crap, and this could be a precursor to that.
Yeah, it could be. That would be an.
I mean that's supposed to happen. I think the end of this month. I think it's either starting the end of this month or I haven't caught up. I got to go to the comic store and take a look. But it's supposed to happen soon.
Yeah, it's the Doomsday Clock thing. It's coming. I think maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think Hitch's Justice League stuff kind of exists not outside of continuity, but he's kind of allowed to do his own thing that doesn't touch anybody else's stuff. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be there. But this is kind of this is very DC-ish. They just tend to do things like this.
As long as it doesn't they just finished, or they're just finishing Rebirth, where they're setting things back to the way they really want them, the way the fans like it, and they're going to jump right into a time travel story. I mean, I don't want to have to go through in another 2 or 3 years. DC rebirthing the next Rebirth. It's like we're where we fix everything we just broke after we just fixed it. I don't want to go through that again.
I don't think that's going to happen with this one, man. I think that Hitch is kind of off in his own little corner, doing his own thing, and I don't think it. But they might be doing it anyway with the Watchmen thing. So who knows? That's probably coming.
This is just the bacon bits on your continuity salad.
Well done.
Yes. So keep an eye out for that, ladies and gentlemen. It's Justice League. I don't remember what number it is that's going to be in. So it's coming out soon. That's all I know. I think the story's already going on. The kids have already come back, if I remember correctly. So yeah, keep an eye out. Keep an eye on that story. Well, and we'll see how it affects continuity going forward. So we did a lot of talking tonight about movies and casting and whatnot.
Uh-oh.
So we're now going to have 2 new segments on the show that I've been looking forward to all day, all week. And they're DC related. That's why we did DC second tonight. So first one I want to do, and this is something that Wizard Magazine used to do, and I want to continue on in that vein, and it's dreamcasting. Okay, so we're gonna pick who we think should play a character in an upcoming movie, and of course we're gonna start with a movie that has been announced. We know who's in charge of the movie. That is, of course, Batgirl and Joss Whedon, but no one's been cast yet. No script has been written, so we can play around with it a little bit. So we're gonna start with, who do you think should play Batgirl? And we'll let JD go first.
So I'm of 2 minds on this. This was really interesting when you posed this one. I thought of 2 people right away who were completely different ages. Okay. But it depends on where they wanted to go. So I'll throw both of them out. My first thought was Jessica Chastain, just on a look. She's freaking awesome. And I think she can pull off the gravitas thing. But then I was thinking, I might be a little too old, because she's I think she's 40. That's a little old to play Batgirl.
A little bit.
Then I thought, maybe I just saw It last night. And Sophia Lillis, the girl who plays Beverly Marsh in it, completely steals the show. Like, she's going to have a phenomenal future in front of her. Yeah,
I've heard a lot.
She's going to be big. Yeah, she's really, really good. And I think she's a little young, but I think that in a year or 2 or 3, when they finally get this thing going, she'd be later teenager, and I think she could be perfect for Batgirl.
Okay. That's good. I like those choices. How about you, John?
Well, my first pick would probably be Ricky Lakota, but that's because I've seen her in a Batgirl costume at several cons. But otherwise, if you're talking Batgirl, I really think Tatiana Maslany. I think she could make an awesome Batgirl, and because she can play anything.
Okay.
Do you know who she is?
I know exactly who she is.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, for those of you that are listening, that's Orphan Black, where she basically played like I don't know, like up to like 20 different personalities at any given point during the series. And she played them all where literally if you took those scenes where she was playing that personality and split them up and just watched them at different times, you would think it was a different freaking actress. She's that good.
Okay. So I will say who my pick is. And once we get to the second part of what we're going to talk about, you'll understand a little bit why I picked this actress. But Ellie Fanning.
Elle Fanning?
Yes.
That's a little bit girlish, but okay.
Well, yeah, she's Dakota's younger sister, the taller of the two. I think I liked her in Super 8. And I think, I mean, she's 19, so she's right at that age where she can still play young, if they, and I think I would like them to go with a younger Batgirl. And we'll get to more of that in a minute. So the second half of the question was, what villain would you pick and who would you pick to play her or him? So.
Wait a minute. You mean the villain to go against Batgirl?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to have a villain in your movie. You have to have an antagonist. So you sound like you haven't thought about that at all, John. How about you, JD? Did you give that any thought?
Oh, I know exactly what I'd pick. Are you kidding me? Batman.
Go ahead, John.
No. Well, either that or Batmutt. I'm not sure. We're either one of those. What?
Okay.
No, okay. In all seriousness, I think Batgirl going against the Riddler would be good, because in his current incarnations, in the current the many different characterizations of him these days, he's much more serious. He's much more dangerous. He's like Joker level dangerous, and he's just as intelligent as he's always supposed to be. But he's actually showing it instead of being the stupid 1960s Batman type Joker. Riddler. I think you could really test her character with him, and throw in Batmite just for the hell of it. Why not?
Okay, all right. We need Batmite. Do you have anyone in mind to play the Riddler?
Riddler
Besides Jim Carrey.
Oh God! Now that you've said that, it's all I can see, and it's burning my eyes. Wow, the Riddler. I have no. It has to be somebody from Game of Thrones. Jim Beam. No, I don't. Jim Beam. No, that's a drink. That's not. Of course, that's. I don't know.
How about Finn Jones?
You know what? Theon.
What?
The guy who plays Theon.
I like that.
The guy who plays. Yeah. What's his name?
I like that. I have no idea.
Theon Greyjoy. Yeah. Portrayed by Alfie Allen. I think he could do it because he's creepy. He would add a dimension of really, that mental yuck type to his character that would really really make him menacing. I'd like it.
Okay. How about you, JD? Any thoughts on a villain and who should play the person?
Man, I struggled with this one. I think mainly the reason I struggle with it is I don't know if Batgirl has enough of her own niche carved out where I can say, oh, well, these are Batgirl's villains. Yeah. Where I don't want you're necessarily, although I agree with everything John said about the Riddler, current Riddler especially, Tom King Riddler is fantastic. So my first thought was the Calculator. Because, again, I'm from that right age where, to me, Barbara Gordon is Oracle. So, I mean, that's just how my brain operates. So my first thought was something to do with the Calculator. But I to be honest with you, I struggled to come up with a guy to play him. But based on this whole Game of Thrones thing, I'm going to say the guy who plays Jaime Lannister, Nikolai something. I can't say his name.
I definitely could see him as the Calculator. I'll give you that.
And it's funny that we're getting all of our menacing characters from Game of Thrones.
There's so many people on the show. Why not? Nikolai Coster-Waldau. Jesus, that guy.
My pick. The villain should be Lady Shiva.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it'd be a cool way to introduce the League of Shadows into the new DCEU. And I think it should be played by Tatiana how do you say her last name? Maslany.
Yeah, no, Tatiana Maslany.
Maslany, sorry.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm not you, so I'm 90% probably right.
I think she would be an awesome villain.
Oh, yeah. No, she could definitely do an awesome villain, yeah.
Yes. Plenty of fight choreography training from Orphan Black as well. So she could step right into that role, I think.
Yep.
Be a very menacing villain to the young and exuberant Elle Fanning. So, which brings me on to our second part, our other related issue, our related segment. We won't always do these back to back like this, but I figured we're introducing them both. And I call it Inside the Writer's Room. This was something that we've done on the show before, but never actually officially called it something. You and I talked about it with the Star Wars movie. John and Ben and I did it with the Batman v Superman, where we sat down and talked about what elements we think should be in the movie, where we think it would go, and what shouldn't be in the movie. So let me just start a little bit with like what my thoughts were. The reason I went with Elle Fanning is I'd like to see a young Batgirl, someone who is drawn to the world of vigilante superheroism. She's a big Batman fan. She's a fan of Superman and Wonder Woman, so it inspires her to go out and put a costume on and be a superhero, and she's like all like gung-ho to do it, you know, but then of course she has a couple minor successes that start out, and then the first time she goes against a real villain, who would be Our Lady Shiva, she fails, you know, and has to deal with that, like, she's not really ready, and she has to figure out how to train, you know, probably throw an element of Batman or maybe Robin in to help her train and get ready to go against.
You're talking like a Batgirl year one, like they did Batman year one, right?
Yes. You know, but like she starts out real like, yay, I'm going to be a superhero, and by the end of it, she's not necessarily
I'm a superhero.
not necessarily hard and strong, but wiser. Like, you know, you can't just put a costume on and be a hero. She learns her lesson the hard way, you know, but at the end, she's a wiser, better hero for it. So that would be her hero's journey. So that's kind of what I envision for a Batgirl movie.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
I like it. Because, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to have an origin story, right?
Yes.
And that actually is something that has kind of been passed over a lot. I don't think anybody's really has anybody done a Batgirl origin story? And usually it's just, I've got the costume and I am, you know, the niece of the Commissioner Gordon or blah, 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 or whatever.
Or daughter. Depending on which continuity.
Yeah. Well, I told you Batmite was involved somehow. So.
Or the niece of Alfred.
Oh, God. No, that's best left forgotten. I had your exact dimensions to make you a costume. Don't ask me how.
Creepy.
Yeah, just kind of.
I don't know. So JD, you're the writer of the three of us. What kind of ideas did you have?
What I would want to do, I agree with you on the year one thing. I think this is a prime for an origin story. I agree with you that it needs to be a younger Batgirl. What I would like to see is this has to be, if I'm writing this, it's got to be the story of a father and a daughter reconnecting, right? I would have her come to Gotham after her mother has left Jim Gordon, and her father don't connect. And, you know, similar to what you're like, where she wants to make a difference, she wants to help. She's the kid, she's a cop's kid, so she has similar interests in helping people the way that her father does. Outside the law, though. And so I think she should have no tangential connection to Batman at first. I think it's important that she has to build her Batgirl reputation or beginning on her own. And realistically, like, I'm of the mind that whatever the villains, that's all secondary. Really, the story I want to see is how she uses being a vigilante to kind of try to make herself into something, not to impress her father, but to almost like one-up him a little bit, and it winds up making their relationship stronger. And by the end of it, she inadvertently meets Batman, and he kind of helps her become a better Batgirl.
So the first thing is that's kind of why the other reason I picked Lady Shiva, so there was a tangential connection to Batman to bring that element in somehow. But I mean, definitely I could see her like watching her father do something, and yet the criminal gets away because of a procedure he has to follow or whatever, because he has to work within the rules.
Yeah. Right. Right, yeah, whatever. And because she's young and immature, she thinks that it'd be easier and better to operate outside the rules. And there's her learning curve, is rather than doing things the way they're supposed to be done, she's going to go about the vigilante way, thinking it'd be the easier path to follow and would get things done quicker, which is, kind of the impetuousness of youth is like, you have to play by the rules and I'm just going to do things the right way because, you're a sellout and you have all these rules and plans you have to follow, and I'm just going to go be Batman because Batman's got it figured out. That's how I would do it.
It wouldn't be just I need to do things outside the rules. It would be, well, it works for Batman.
Yeah.
It's a great
but
idea.
Again, Batman. That's the whole thing. Batman's able to operate outside the rules, and she would have no clue of the relationship between her father and Batman. Which again, if you find out your dad helps Batman, now all of a sudden he becomes way cooler in the eyes of a teenager. And I think that's the angle I would play. I would play on the impetuousness and immaturity of a teenager, but wanting to do the right thing and having that hero mentality, and she has to grow up. That's where I would focus on.
How about you, John? Since you picked a 40-year-old actress to play Batgirl.
Wait, no, what?
Wasn't your first choice? You said I think she's like 40.
No, I did. That was me. My first choice.
Oh, that was. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany is 31 years old. So.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
you and JD look so much alike. I get you guys confused.
Wait, what?
I don't know how to take that.
Anyway, so what were you thinking, John? Do you agree, disagree with us so far?
No, yeah, I agree. It sounds good. I think we're coming up with a good outline here. I think we should write the screenplay and send it in.
Yeah, and they'll reject it, but then we'll see the same exact movie we wrote on the screen.
Well, if we code it with cocaine, they'll probably take it right up.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, it's Hollywood, right? I mean, that's how you do things, isn't it?
So, speaking of Hollywood, and the mistakes that Hollywood makes, what are some of the things you would definitely avoid in a Batgirl movie?
The Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you're going origin story, you do not bring the Joker in yet. I totally agree.
I just think there's so much like negative fan will toward that whole storyline and what it did to her character in the long run. I think you just avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, and no throw-in scenes of bat sex.
So you mean,
if you know what I'm referring to,
you're talking about the cartoon version of Killing Joke that to pad it they added, Batman and Batgirl had sex.
Yeah,
spoiler alert.
I just think no. I just, when I think that, I think just no. Just like in big black letters, no.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I never understood. I don't understand why they did that. Like, I understand they wanted to pad it, but you could have just told a quick origin of Batgirl and then led up to the Killing Joke story. There was no need.
Dave, I don't think that's padding. I think that's something Bruce Timm actually buys into because it's kind of a thread that goes through all his Batman work. Like Batgirl has a crush on Batman in the animated series, and one of his I guess I didn't know this, but I just recently read this online last week. In one of his comics, Batman impregnates Batgirl, and she loses the baby.
Well,
then they have like a hatred for each other in Batman Beyond. So I mean, that's really this is stuff that he's kind of had worked out in his head for a while.
Yeah, I don't
think they're.
I was going to say I don't know about losing the baby, but I know that it was implied in Batman Beyond the animated series, which is the origin of that character. That Terry McGinnis, when he was talking to Commissioner Barbara Gordon, that she told them. I mean, it was actually there was a flashback in the. There was a flashback. I forget what episode it was, where they heavily implied and showed that they had a relationship, Batgirl and Batman. Yeah,
like I think that's just for everything good that Bruce Timm has given to Batman in the DC animated universe. Yeah. This might be one thing that just most people aren't going to get on board with. So.
He's the Gennady Tartakovsky of the superhero world, basically. And if you don't know what I mean, go and look up Gennady Tartakovsky and relationships. He will. The things he does with his characters is just wrong. The best relationship in all of his animated series is a relationship between a human woman and a robot.
Yes. Wow. So yes, yeah. So definitely no relationship between. Well, no sexual relationship between Batman and Batgirl. Yes. I mean, it should, to me, it should have always been if you go a younger Batgirl, it should always still just be the same relationship as it is with Robin. You know, mentor to trainee, not anything more than that. Oh God, that was gross. All right, so we're agreed. No Joker, no bat sex. Anything.
Jeez, criminy. Where has this podcast gone?
It's gone to the dogs. How about a crime-fighting dog? Do we have one of those in this movie?
Yeah, Bat Mutt or Dino Mutt.
Dino Mutt.
He's part of the canon, I think, isn't he?
So, this is quickly devolving, guys. All right, so.
Well, you know, we're towards the end and we're all tired. So
yeah, I think true. I think that's true. So I don't know. What do you those who are listening? What do you guys think? Do you like our ideas? Do you think it should be an origin story, or should we have a Batgirl who's seasoned a few years and kicks Jared Leto's butt up and down the screen? Because
you think we should all be committed? What it's.
Well, I definitely think you should be committed, John. So let us know your thoughts.
Again, you mean, right? Committed again.
If you like anything that we've talked about, tweet it at us at Superhero Speak. Leave some feedback on our Facebook page. If you have an idea you'd like us to discuss about Batgirl, you can email any of us on the show. I'm Dave at superheroespeak.com. John is John at superheroespeak.com. And JD is JD at superheroespeak.com. We keep it simple just for you. Sound good, guys?
Yeah, I think we've got it. Yeah,
we stuck the landing.
Yeah, there's nothing else. There's nothing else interesting for this week, so I can't wait for next week.
All right, boys and girls. So that's our cue. So as always, thanks for listening, and until next time, don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.